Welcome everyone to the very first edition of 1,000 Miles of Stories with Mike Pearlman and Sal Fish. We're actually hanging out in Malibu today with Sal and Mike. You guys want to say hi to everyone?
Hello. I want to tell everybody here that I think it's maybe 2 years ago, I had this idea to do 1,000 miles of stories. We did a few videos, and then now we've decided to really kick it up, and our first video here is with Sal Fish, and couldn't be anybody better. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about the old days back with NORRA, when NORRA started, and when Sal Fish was with SCORE, and SCORE got started, and there's a lot of stories, 1,000 miles of stories.
Well, Mike, when you called, you were not very informative of what we were really going to do today.
Well, I didn't know what we were going to do.
Well, that follows what all of us didn't know a few years ago, right? But in all honesty, I didn't realize, first of all, that this was the first one. And thank you. I'm honored and humbled and privileged to be with you and the NORRA people, to be in the first show. It really is very, very thoughtful. And there are, what a great line, 1,000 miles of stories, because every racer, every sponsor, every pit crew, every chase vehicle, every support person has 1,000 stories. And so we've got, I don't know how long to tell some of these stories, but you're the lead guy. And you had mentioned the start of NORRA, and you mentioned I was at SCORE, but that's not true. I actually...
No, SCORE came in later.
Yeah, I came in. My start was with your dad in NORRA back when I was at Peterson Publishing Company back in the late 60s.
Right.
And that's what really gave my first opportunity to fall in love with Baja and the people of Baja and Baja California Sur. So it goes way back then with 1960. I think my first event, and I hate to say race because I think I'd be giving a discredit to the racers, because I wasn't a racer. It was just a great opportunity and an incredible adventure for me and Bob Wigan, my co-driver. And at the original time, I was the publisher of Carcraft magazine with Peterson, and then I became publisher of Hot Rod, and that's why I left Peterson to go to start SCORE with Thompson. But the early days of the Baja, I mean, there are going to be people, I hope, that are watching this. I don't know how many millions of viewers you're going to have on this show, but they're not going to know some of the names we're probably going to talk
We're
about.
up to 3 million now.
Really? Wow. I had no idea. But anyway, they're not going to really know some of the names that we're talking about and the history.
They should.
They should.
That's what it's the foundation of the off-road industry.
Exactly.
Is when it started back in 66, 67.
Well,
And it really started with a little race down in Riverside. It was a Riverside riverbed.
right.
There was a race there that I remember going into, and
Was that Brian Chichula?
I believe so.
Brian Chichula, and I think Rod Hall and Flicker, I think, were involved at that time.
I remember I got stuck in the mud when I raced it. Yeah, I did.
It is interesting because, when I was at Peterson, that was a long, long time ago, and they still had a switchboard. And the lady that ran the switchboard, her last name was Francisco. Sonny Francisco, who was, first of all, a beautiful lady and just the nicest person in the world. And I'll never forget when I left my dad's garage to go work at Peterson as a advertising salesman for Carcraft. I walked into the Peterson building, which was then on Santa Monica Boulevard, next to a pornographic theater, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Were you mixed up or what?
Yeah, I went to the theater first, by the way, but then I found out Peterson was this other place. But anyway, and Sonny was one of the first people that somehow I talked to, because she was a switchboard operator, and she had a a lot of information. She was, being a switchboard operator, she heard all the calls that were coming in, who was talking to who, and so fast forward, that was in 1965 maybe. Fast forward to 1972 and a half, 73, that I decided that I was going to leave Peterson and take this really wild experience to go down with Mickey Thompson and get involved in this off-road organization. Sunny was so sweet to me. She said, do you really know anything about Mickey Thompson and stuff? And I didn't realize that Sunny was Don Francisco's wife. And, for a little quick history, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead of things, but, there was a lot of misunderstanding back in the early days about what Mike's dad and his team did and what Mickey Thompson did and what the Mexican government did. And I think I feel blessed and humbled, as I said, that Mike, being the kind of guy he is, and I, being who I am, have come together and really went through a transition that people hated each other. I mean, there were people that hated Mickey Thompson and me as a result of being associated with Mickey, and I didn't know anyone hated Mickey Thompson. And there were people that hated NORRA that, had no clue why they hated him, but they thought they were a problem with SCORE. And it's really not true at all. It was a situation that happened. Mickey didn't, that I'm aware of, and I think I was pretty aware, didn't do anything to try to get NORRA or your dad out of Mexico. It was just something happened down there with a government official, which, as we all know, could happen very easily in a foreign country. And all the hard work that Ed's team, Don Francisco, Ray Brock, Jack Brady, to name a few of the guys that I remember, and you've got a lot of names there that I don't remember, but they did an incredible job of really, really coming in after the Eakins brothers did the run on the motorcycles, on the Hondas, and opened up the Baja Peninsula. But if it wasn't for Ed and the NORRA team, we wouldn't be sitting here today. They really, really, their dad.
It was Bud Eakins, Dave Eakins, Eddie Mulder,
right?
And Cliff Coleman.
Okay, that was that.
And that they went down. They set a record from Tijuana to La Paz.
Right, and that was because of Joe Parker's, right? Because he was the one that put it in the magazine.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I know Dad read a little article.
Yeah, that's what it was.
In the Tarzana newspaper, and said I could beat that in my Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
So he went out.
Yeah, because there,
tried to beat it.
As you said, there was this thing in the Riverside riverbed, but it wasn't what your dad had in mind and what they were trying to do. And his relationship. Now I don't know how he knew. How did he know Ray Brock? Because
through Don Francisco.
Okay, and Ray Brock was, when I became the ad salesman at Carcraft, Ray was the head honcho. He was the publisher of Hot Rod Magazine, and he was the big kahuna of the Peterson Publishing Company. And Carcraft was a drag racing magazine, and Hot Rod was the, next to Motor Trend, it was the overall, magazine at Peterson. And
well, Don Francisco was heavily involved in that whole.
Exactly.
He was the one that went, "Dear Don, I have this '57 Chevy, and I'm going to put a '36 rear end in it. How do I do it?" And Don would answer him back. He would
right. Really, yeah. So there was a lot of the people that were at Peterson Publishing Company that I didn't realize were very involved in. Well, they were involved in all forms of motorsport, but they were involved because of what your dad had this idea to do this very unique event, and Ray Brock picked up on it through, I guess, Don Francisco and your dad, and that's how I got involved, because I went with my editorial director and a photographer who went to Revell Model Car Kits. They were building a Baja Bug.
I remember the first time I met you was taking your picture, because I took all those pictures against the rock wall, and you got out of a white Volkswagen bug.
Yeah, yeah.
And I took your picture. Okay,
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Start. Put your helmet back on.
You know, I'll never forget. I had I was really the macho mucho racer. I had I think it was a cotton, like a flying Zambini. I was going to be shot out of a cannon.
I have a picture of it. I have that picture.
It was coveralls on, boy, and I had a full windowed Baja bug, and I had this mucho macho bandana on because I thought that's what you had to have when you went to Baja. And I finally realized, wait a minute, why do I need to have a bandana on when I've got a windshield on? I'm not in a, you know, in a real race car, so to speak, you know, an open window thing. But the history that your family, you know, deserves the credit for, and then, you know, again, jump ahead. God, if it wasn't for, I can remember when Mickey and I, we were invited by the governor, Milton Castellani at that time, to go down to Mexicali. The local Mexicans had put on a race after your dad left Baja, and it was a total disaster. And they knew that Mickey Thompson had a big name in the industry, so to speak. And a friend of mine that I met because I went down and raced with your dad, Pepe Limon, who was a very good friend of the governor at the time, and he lived in Mexicali. We became dear friends, I mean, really dear friends. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But he told the governor, he says, well, you ought to invite Sal Fish and Mickey Thompson to come down, because Sal was the publisher of a magazine and he'd get a lot of exposure. And that's how this whole thing kind of came about. But it was like anything else, there was such bittersweet that I didn't understand. I was very naive. I didn't understand some of the crap, to be honest with you, that was going on between what Mickey was trying to do and what your dad had already done. And there were some people that were, you know, very close to your dad that didn't see the whole picture. But what I was getting at is, if it wasn't for your dad putting together the off-road motorsports Hall of Fame thing that he did, and then so graciously giving you guys giving it to Rod Hall, and then Rod Hall giving it to what it is today, this history and this thing wouldn't be here. So it really stems again back to Pearlman, you know. I mean, really does. And it's an amazing thing when I look back now and think about what a charmed and incredible opportunity off-road gave me. And be sitting here with you, Mike, you know, that I think 40 years ago, people would have said there's no way you're going to put anyone from SCORE and NORRA together in a room. And, you know,
no, there was some big conflict.
And you know, think about
and it was strictly business. I mean,
and I didn't know that. I had no clue.
Yeah, it was.
I walked into it like, oh, okay, I'm going to be this guy, and we're going to start this sanctioning body, and blah blah blah. And you know what? Sometimes being naive and a dumb Italian works, because I didn't get involved with any of that crap. I just put my head down and said, hey, man, I want this thing to work. And, you know, I fell in love with the whole idea, and, you know, here we are. But it is, I think, and I think you'll remember this, Mike, you know, out of weird chance, you know, my wife was a director of the Women's Center at Pierce College for Winnetka and DeSoto and the 101 freeway. And I was going over there one afternoon to see her about something, and I think
I'll finish the story. You ran out of gas.
I was going to say.
Okay, this is my story. This is my story. So here I drive by, and I'm in my Land Cruiser. It had about 400 horsepower, V8 in it, no top, and it was an FJ40. I've been waiting to tell this story. There you go. And here's Sal Fish with a SCORE Scout. A Scout that said SCORE on the side of the road, broken down. And I went, that's we weren't friends back then. There was a lot of hostility. I don't think I knew you. Okay.
No, we never met.
But that was SCORE and I was NORRA, so there we had a problem. Okay. So he said, yeah, I'm out of gas. I said, oh, okay. What should I do with this guy? This is SCORE, okay. So I'll tow you to the gas station.
Okay. That's
Okay, so we didn't have tow straps back then. We had chains. Okay, so I grabbed a 25-foot chain out of the back of my Land Cruiser, and I wrapped it around this little axle that was about this big around front end. And I said, I was a little upset with this, but okay, I'm going to tow this guy, this Sal Fish guy that I heard about, all the way to the gas station. And so I started towing him. And I was really good with towing people. I could tow just perfect. I was about 20 years old, 19. And I'd let off the gas and then gas it a little bit. And I'd see Sal's head go, boom. And I would jerk him all the way to the gas station. And I figured, okay, I'll just rip that front end right out of his car. But
I didn't know this.
Hold on. And I got him to the gas station, and I unhooked him, and I said, Sal, by the way, I'm Mike Pearlman. We shook hands. He went, oh, okay. And I threw my chain in the back of the Land Cruiser, and that was my 19-year-old story, how I met Sal Fish. There you go.
That's, I did, I remember, the running out of gas and you towing me, because we went to Ventura Boulevard and Winnetka. There was a gas station still there. The old gas station.
Standard.
Okay. And when you were pulling me, I thought I was putting my foot on the brake, because you were, I said, God, this guy doesn't know how to drive.
Oh, yeah,
I did. But boy,
exactly
you were jacking me around. I didn't know that.
Sal, if you needed a pop, sorry. We're okay now.
We're okay. No problem at all. I got my gas, and that was it. Did I borrow money from you to get the gas? Did I have money?
No.
Okay. Anyway, so kind of interesting, how this thing, came all about. Did a 360, so to speak, and I think there would be people that would be rolling in their grave if they knew that we have become the friends we have and respect each other the way we have, and it's been a unique experience, Mike, and I admire what you and your organization has done and what you are doing. You're providing an incredible form of our sport for a group of people that want to not necessarily hang it out the way some other organizations. You have to hang it out in racing. They have a great time in doing what they're doing, and I think it's fantastic. You carried the flame.
We kind of keep trying to keep the fun into it, and I can remember when I did Pikes Peak for a few years. Eddie Mulder got down on his knees. He looked at me. He goes, "Mike, you're being too serious." And he wrote "fun" in the dirt with a stick. He goes, "Mike, it's all about the fun.
Yeah.
Lighten up." Okay. And that's when I felt like I was starting to go faster up the hill, and I relaxed a little bit. Okay, but it was fun. So when we started NORRA again, it's all about the fun. And we said, okay, we're not gonna go straight from Ensenada to Cabo. It's too long. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm too old. So we're going to spend the night in Bay of Valais, spend the night here, and spend the night here. And we'll break it up a little bit. And so it's become a 5-night deal. And every night we serve food and drinks and beer and tequila. And we have a good time. Time. It's not like starting and finishing, and what's in between is hectic and goofy. It's not goofy. It's a different type of race. I didn't mean to say
no question.
But we're keeping the fun in there.
It's
a big family.
There obviously is the need for it, and is this live or what do you call it?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, okay. I didn't know. I'm still trying to figure. I'm dotting the phone, so I'm not sure what the deal is. But anyway, when you consider what's we've just been through, here we're in the heart of this coronavirus thing. We've all been shut down. This is the first, actually, since March. This is the first interface I've had with anybody actually sitting next to someone. Barbara, my wife, has kept me on a real tight leash because of my condition and stuff like that. And I've just been, I've stayed here, which is not all bad. I'm happy as to stay home after 50 years of going crazy and doing everything. But I think that when you look at where we were, I knew the phone would ring, right? But no, you did go through checkpoint 3, and we are docking you. You're in the wrong deal. But anyway, the fact is that, you know, the world right now is upside down. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to figure out how they're going to feed their family, how they're going to pay their mortgages, how they're going to pay their car payments, how they're going to get back to their life. And I think that it's a crucial time for our sport, you know, and our hobby. And I think that with the professionalism and what Roger has done with SCORE since he's purchased it, it's been fantastic. I mean, you know, he's brought a dimension that I don't think I ever could have done as far as his mindset of the media and how to get things done and what he's doing and everything. And I think that's absolutely spectacular, and it's obvious it's working. He's doing a great job, and I know he's they're right now trying to negotiate when their next event is going to take place. And there's certain things happening down in Baja with the coronavirus thing that it spikes, then it goes down. And I really have the utmost respect for what he and his organization is up against right now. And the same thing with you, Mike.
Well,
I think, you know, you've been the one thing I would say, you know, after being involved so much with different organizations, trying to come in, and everyone knew how to do it better than I did, and everyone was going to put me out of business, and they wanted to do this, and they wanted to do that. And, you know, I had a great relationship with Walt Lott. Walt and I, you know, as we joined forces for a number of years and put on our own series. I had a great relationship with Casey Polks, who I admired, and Casey came to me when, you know, because he raced with us, and he came to me and said, Sal, I want you to know I want to start an organization for motorcyclists in Las Vegas originally. That was the whole idea in Nevada. And he came to me out of courtesy, and he said, I'm not trying to, you know, sidestep you or anything. I respect what you've done, and, you know, you gave me an opportunity to beat the Baja and all the things he did. And we've always had a great relationship. And we talked all the time. A lot of people thought we were enemies. Not at all. I mean, I respected what Casey did, and I know he respected what I was doing. And the same thing about you, Mike. If I'm not mistaken, before you actually went out and did what you were doing, you did call me. Didn't we have a conversation? You said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want you to understand I'm not trying to, you know, do what you're doing. And I said, hey, you know, I don't own Mexico or Baja. And I think that's what's kept our sport alive, having that kind of communication with each other. And you've got a niche, a great niche. SCORE has a niche in what they do. And I think it's proven that, you know, both organizations are necessary for our sport. And you guys fulfill different ends of the hobby, so to speak, for people to do what they want to do. You provide an avenue for sponsors and for television and for all the things that our sport brings out.
Well,
so I admire
it kind of fell together. We originally weren't going to put on a race. We originally wanted to do a movie called Just Finishing with Michael Novell. Okay, and so after we said, well, we're going to build a few cars about doing a Mexican 1000 and just finishing. And then we decided, well, it'd be easier than building the cars. Let's just put on an event and invite the old cars. So we put on a vintage race.
Okay.
And the movie never happened, but the vintage race was fun, and then we did another one. And that was funner, and we did another one. We said, oh, someday maybe we'll make some money at this. And it never happened.
No.
And it doesn't happen, does it, Sal?
No.
It doesn't.
Well, it's
Maybe a little, but
as
not.
I've always said, that people say, how do you become a millionaire in off-road race? It's very simple. Start with 2 million.
Yeah.
You know, you'll become a millionaire real quick.
So,
you know.
but we're doing this. We didn't start this idea from our pockets. We started from our hearts, and it's carrying on. My partner, Eliseo Garcia, and his dad was my dad's right-hand partner, and Eliseo and I are just finishing something our dad's started.
Yeah.
And our hearts are in it, not our pockets. Guaranteed. Okay, so everybody does the math and say, oh, they're making millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It's not happening.
Well,
Not even close.
you know, we've hopefully, and I know you have, we've made a million friends. And
Yes, we have.
I can't even imagine what my life would have been like if, I hadn't had the opportunity to race at your dad's race and go down to Baja and experience the incredible people of Baja California and Baja Sur.
Were you at the first 67 race?
No, I was not. I didn't. I was at the. I think my first race was the '68, but I didn't race. I went down with Carcraft magazine, and an editor to do a story on it. '69, I believe, was my first race. And, the empty car, Joe Vitone, and that.
That's when Wide World of Sports.
Yes. Yeah. And it was just. I mean, God, compared to what it is today, I could remember. I had no clue.
We're trying to bring back like it was back in '67.
Oh,
we can't.
Well,
do
wait
it,
a minute.
but,
Wait a
but
minute.
we're not too far off.
Yeah, but I had the. We were absolutely out of our minds. I mean, there was no. We didn't know where we were going.
There was no communication.
There's no communication. I'd leave here, and my wife would say, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going south." Well, what? Well, I hear from him. Well, there's no phones.
We had shortwave radios
Yeah,
at every checkpoint.
but
Ham radios.
But I'm talking about as the competitor.
Right.
We, when we'd go down quote pre-run, we had no clue what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
Especially me, I really didn't. We ended up at San Ignacio broken. Walked into a building, cranked the phone, talked to someone in Hermosillo, that talked to someone else, and they put it through to Barbara here and said, "Well, your husband's broke. He won't be home for a couple of weeks, I think, because he doesn't know how to get home."
I use that same excuse now. Yeah.
But no, it's the truth, though. I mean, we had no, back in those days, we had no satellite, we had no GPS, no phones.
We put little stickers in the cars. They were called stuck stubs.
Yeah.
If you were stuck, you had to give this to the next racer,
Right.
and kind of write down on there where you
needed.
were. And that racer was supposed to turn it in when he got to the finish or the next checkpoint. And somebody maybe would come and get you, or at least tell somebody where you were at. They were called stuck stubs.
Yeah.
We still have some at home.
The stuck stubs, or when you think about it, we did the same thing. You'd have a beer can, and you take the top off the beer can. You put, well, you didn't. This is after we became sophisticated. They just opened the beer can, and you put the theater stub in there, and we'd give everybody.
That was for the checkpoint, to make sure you went to the checkpoint.
Right,
Yeah.
checkpoint. But the stuck stub thing, you would do the stuck stub and hand it to the next checkpoint, or whoever would say, "I'm out of gas," or "I'm this or that." Exactly right, and
It sure did work, didn't it, Sal?
well, it did.
It did.
It did work.
It did.
But the racer was a different person then too. Because it really truly was an adventure. Instead you were being a pioneer. And I always have said also, how did the off-road thing really start? Well, the first off-roader was really pioneers that came in a covered wagon from the East Coast to the West. I mean, those are really the off-road guys. And your dad picked it up from there. Score took it to the next level, and Mickey's idea, was, we got to get this sport. It's got to be in the desert, but we got to get it out of where the family can't come and enjoy a weekend. We need it to start and finish in a city or someplace where there's hotels, where the family could, if they're not going to go out and get dirty out in the middle of the desert, they could go watch a movie or go shopping or do something. And that was Mickey's, whole idea, to bring the sport out of, quote, the desert, so to speak. And that's why we, what we started to do was, go to, been invited, to places like Prim, or to, the Herbst's casinos, or to Parker, like, Dad did. That was a brilliant idea, the river there, because even though there wasn't a casino, there wasn't a casino then, but there was a motel, and that was it, But it's come along with the sport. I mean, it's just hard to believe that that little sport turned into a giant $1 trillion industry, and a lot of people have made an awful lot of money, And sure as heck, a lot of people have had a lot of fun, including the two of us. I can't, as I said, think of anything that I could have been doing that my life would have been as full. And the people I've met, not only the racers, but the sponsors, the manufacturers, people all over the world, you know about the Baja 1000. They might not call it the NORRA or the Score, but they know the Baja 1000. Oh, isn't that crazy event that these guys do? And, to be a part of that is just, I mean, gosh, people dream about doing that. We did it every day, and that's pretty exciting.
We live that. I wake up with that every morning.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want it to go away, but it's there. And,
well, what's happened? What's going on?
Right now, we've got our race postponed till October.
Okay.
And I've got my eyes open real wide about whether it's going to be safe or not to go in October. Yeah. And certainly if it is, we'll go down there. But this is just one race, okay? And it's not as important as having the chance of getting couple of people sick.
That's right. Yeah.
Or losing their life over this virus. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure it's safe before I bring everybody down to have a good time.
Well, I think, Mike, it's a very difficult decision right now, but I think what you just laid out is the correct way to look at it. It's not, you say it's just one race, but it's a big race, let's face it.
Yeah, but there'll be many more after
That's
this.
right. You're not going any place.
There'll be many
in
more
the racing
races.
Community, it even makes it more desirable because they didn't get to do it when they were supposed to do it. Now they're dreaming about it, and it's more exciting. It's like.
Yes, I'll tell everybody out there listening, this is the time to build that car. You got time right now. Finish that car, build it right, make it strong. I'll give you a trophy.
Start looking at ways to get sponsorship and everything. It's a blessing in disguise, really. You just got to look at it. I know when you do decide if it's going to be in October or whenever it's going to be a great event. I know that because you put on a super event. I've enjoyed coming down and being a part of them. You do a first class, and your people that work with you are great. Alessandro is a super guy. I've known him well. I knew his father. He was the secretary of tourism or motorsports. He was a motorsports guy in Ensenada before.
He was secretary of tourism.
Yeah, secretary of tourism, and
he got Dad the first permits.
That's it. Yeah.
And he helped. If it wasn't for him, this wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. And our good friend Nico, who was a friend of your father and a friend of Mickey and a very good friend of mine, Nico Saad and Ensenada. I mean, there's been so many people. Again, I wish that we could devote, an hour of just
every one of these
listening.
people that we meet or have met over the years, come on, it's been 50 plus years.
Yeah.
It's got a story.
Yeah.
A story about when they went to Baja and they either had too much to drink or too much of something or had too much fun. And that's what this is about. It's 1,000 miles of stories. And we're starting off the first one here. Well, it's not the first one. I've done a couple before, but with Sal Fish and Mike Pearlman here, we go back to the very beginning of it, and we gave birth to this sport, and we're gonna have fun with this.
Well, Mike, thank you. Sounds like we're ready to maybe close this episode, but I really, really am honored to have the opportunity to be with you.
Well, first of all, why don't you tell us one of your favorite stories of Baja?
Oh,
I got this in my head that somebody says Sal Fish rode a horse one day from here to here because their car broke down and he had to ride a horse to get to the next checkpoint. Anyway, I'm sure you have a bunch of stories.
Well, I don't think I want to bore you with all that, but I will tell you, I've had the experience of riding a burro, looking for a trail, riding a horse, commandeering a crop duster plane that I thought the back seat was a back seat, but it was they had the insecticide in it, so I actually sat and straddled my legs over the pilot in the deal, and we took off at Rio Hardy, and we found the trail that takes us over to Laguna Salada. It was a bighorn sheep trail, and I was able to see that in the air, frightened the hell up. But again, being very naive, not understanding a lot of things in life, but it worked, you know. But then I've walked, I'm macheting routes down there, but you know, it's, I'm saying you know, it took a lot of people around me, you know, my nephew Paul, my beautiful wife Barbara, you know, Nico Saad, Pepe Limon, Mike Leone, you know, and that's another thing. You know, there's a story, a history about Baja, that there are people, the ladies, you know, Alfonsina, Josefina, Mike Leone. These are names that people aren't even going to remember in a few years. And if it wasn't for them and the Mellings, the Johnson Ranch, these people are incredible people that came from another country to come into Baja and pioneered, you know, whether it was a silver mine or a gold mine or whatever they were doing there, or hiding from the law. God knows why they were
I've
in
met a
Baja.
few of them, maybe more than a few.
Why they were there, but if it wasn't for them too, they made up an incredible group of people that we've all associated with and become friends, and they love our sport. I mean, let's face it, you know, Baja was kind of a bastard child of Mexico. You know, the people from the mainland thought they were just a bunch of Indians over on this peninsula, you know. In Baja, they didn't have football, they didn't have soccer, they didn't have basketball. They didn't have, what they had was off-road racing, you know, and that's what 4 generations of kids, starting with your dad and, you know, now you and now Roger, you know, those kids have grown up in off-road racing. And, you know, I've been at the start-finish line, and the guys come up to me and had a picture, and he's got a kid on his shoulder, and it's a picture 30 years ago that he was on his dad's shoulder and shaking hands with me at the start line, and now he's got his son on his shoulder. I mean, that just brings a tear to my eye.
I really enjoy it when an older guy comes up to me. It looks like he's older than me or my age, and he goes, my dad took me to your dad's first race. I was 3 years old, sitting on his shoulders.
Yeah, isn't that?
Oh, okay. Here we are again. Okay, perfect. And what goes around comes around.
Well, you know, what I think, Mike, what your dad started and Mickey continued, you know, with, and Roger, you know, it's the only form of recreation that I know of that we've kept, so to speak, pure from the standpoint, you don't have to be a billionaire, you don't have to be Juan Fangio or Mario Andretti, you know, you don't even need a license, you know, a driver's license to get in our event. It's a fun.
Think of some of the first cars that came. You could take a Volkswagen, okay, and take a torch and cut the fenders and put some heavier duty tires on, and you had a race car, pretty much. And put a good air cleaner on it.
Exactly.
And if it could go down the dirt road
and finish.
And you had fun.
Yeah, you had fun.
We're trying to keep it the same way. If you want to come down, bring what you got.
Yeah.
We're having fun. It's not about winning. Have fun.
I think that really is what the sport originally was about. And yes, it's progressed, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, now we got these beautiful trophy trucks and all the things that you know, you can't stand still. Let's face it, the world is in flux. If you're not moving, you're either going up or down, you know, and we all want to go up. You know, we want to make it better and safer and make it appealing to everybody. And I think we've got a unique sport, you know, off-roading. We, without a doubt, have the most beautiful place in the world to do it. As a quote from our late Rod Hall, you know, I think, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but Rod, I think, in an interview, I remember him saying, you know, when God created the Baja Peninsula, he created it for off-road racing. And
I think he threw all the rocks down there.
You know,
every rock in the world is down in Baja.
It is without a doubt the greatest place to
I think we're kicking off the 1,000 miles of stories, and I think you and I probably have some of the best stories, and we should probably pour a little glass of tequila and
I'm all for
tell some more stories, okay?
Well, again, whoever's watching this thing, I'm honored. privileged to be in the frame here with Mike Pearlman and talk about something I've loved and been a part of me for over 50 years, and to be able to have this opportunity right now to again be in your home or however you're watching this thing. I wish you all the best at whatever event is your first one out of the box, whether it's a SCORE event or a Mike's event, the NORRA event. Hope you're going to be able to compete in both of them and have a great, safe event.